far away from you.
He wanted to distance us from you. I think it's enough distance here.
Okay, I don't know what to say. You actually have some ideas what I would like to tell you, but in a way, just this kind of informal environment obligate me to speak more or less informally as well. But in any way, I would like to invite you always to use a couple forms of analysis. I'm philosopher, first of all, you know. Sorry, but and the second, I'm social and political critique and as well activist. And I would say that when you are going to foreign countries, I'm doing this one. What is important to prepare your own projects, not for university needs, you know, but your own personal. What are you doing here, you know? Why I come here and what I could get from this place the best. Everybody could organize for your own, the only project, you know, unique project. And for this, it's important to work with some information, you know. And what I could suggest, it's first of all to do, you could, everybody from you, you could do SWOT social analysis and analysis of contradiction of society. SWOT, it means you could analyze what kind of strengths are in university in Kaunas and Lithuania. And Vilma mentioned, for example, this is language opportunities, or arte liberales, so-called liberal arts opportunities. It's really the best in Lithuania. And then you could find the weakness of university. Everybody you could find different. For example, you don't like this or the other subject of studies, or professor, you know, or someone else. And you could mark and try to escape from this weakness or to solve the problem. Then what is important as well about opportunities and threats, you know, and there I would like to pay attention not to the university, but to the society, first of all. When I'm going to, for example, to Croatia, to Poland, to all Balkan countries, you know, very different. Sometimes what I'm doing, I try to understand the contradictions of society. And you know that there are many of contradictions in Lithuania as well. One of them you will find in Kaunas city in September is the problem with the tolerance to homosexuality. This is always, there are quite homophobic, there are many homophobic groups. And you could try to find the interest, possibilities, or try, or just to push out this problem and never think about it. But if you are, for example, journalist, it's the good possibility to find the best materials, you know, for the studies. And the other, if you are working in the advertising, today before you, I was in beer manufacturing, you know, and we discussed how to develop this liberal sexual beer or drinking, you know, for the society, different from so-called heterosexual or patriarchal drinks, you know. This is about advertising. As well, this is about, again, possibility to develop or to supply, to propose your own visions, you know, even to local companies, you know. The next threat is migration. You hear it probably. There are big problems between Lithuania and Belarus, and many of illegal migrants would like to cross the borders of EU in Lithuania side. Thousands of Iraqis and the other countries' people. And this is again threats and possibilities. I know that many of our students from Gintautas Mažeikis University are involved as a volunteers or even find job as a translators between these migrants. We need many of you, and you could find possibility to develop your skills. And I know that some friends who worked in this area, later they developed very nice CV. After this, if you will show somewhere social CV in Sweden, Norway, or somewhere, then you have a job with migrants in Lithuania in this difficult time. Believe me, every company like programming or other will pay immediate attention on you, not only on your skills, this programming or mathematics, but as well your social skills, which is maybe not the first, but the secondary important side. So this migration it's not only a threat, but as well a huge possibility, even especially for you. If you will learn little bit Lithuanian language and any other language except English and Russian, because we don't need these languages too. All the other languages are important, all, because everybody would like to go from many countries to go to EU, and they cross the borders and have huge problems later after it. The next problem is about the next problem is actually economical problems, and you could learn how, for example, Lithuania recognized Taiwan officially, and now Lithuania has huge problems with the Chinese government, and this is again that threat, economical, and the possibility to find new ways, new roads of economical development in how to solve the problem of Chinese embargo and so on. This is again possibilities. And if you would like to learn about democracy, you will see that in Lithuanian case, if you would like to be liberal and democratic, you need to pay some price for this one, international political or political price. The next, what you could learn as well, if you will check, Lithuania is completely republican countries. It means that we never had a strong president authoritarian power. We are multiple political country, and the major political power is our parliament, and which consists from many of parties, and every 4 years everything changed in Lithuania, completely we see the new picture. And this is from the one side you could find, if you will study threats, how we don't have this strong power to solve problems. From the other side, you could learn how the country which is equally similar to Estonia or Latvia, which are completely republican, what is the republican way of development? What does mean it's a republican way of development? Republican way of development is first of all thinking of alternate oppositions and alternatives. It means that our political organization of society presupposes that we have not the one alternative, but many of them. It means that if you hear the one voice official, it means that you could find immediately 3 different voices against, This is normal. This is normal. And as well for your own orientation, when you will read some materials about Lithuania, what's going here, remember that you read the only one voice, because if you will check, you could find 3 different voices. Those who use social networks, in Lithuania, the most popular is Facebook. Actually, you could immediately find the oppositional opinions, even very and completely strong. And if you would like, you could find with them some relationships, communication to be involved. I as well think what is next important, maybe it's similar to Nordic countries and all Baltic countries, it's quite popular, so-called subcultural movements. Okay, those who would like, to house music, and so or if or something else, you could check the possibilities. In Kaunas it's better in Vilnius, but to Vilnius to go on train 1 hour. Sometimes, you know, or if you are in Vilnius somewhere, you know, in a suburban area in Vilnius, you could check the downtown of Vilnius to spend 1, 2, 3 hours even from Kaunas to Vilnius train 1 hour. So you see, this is normal. If you have students, you know, ticket, it's 3 euros. Probably it's nothing. It's one bottle of beer, you know. Not the best beer, but some. You know that I would say that the good beer costs more. Then this subcultural activism as well is important if you are doing your research. Even especially, I know if there are some people from Asia and Africa countries, it's very interesting to compare, you know, subcultural movements in one country to do comparative analysis of them. This is very popular on Facebook, or there are other places where you could put your small research, you know. And then what I'm looking, I never hear that our foreign students organize podcasts here, you know. We have mostly Lithuanian podcast or Russian speakers podcast. And if you will organize English or French or the other podcast here, you know, to translate on YouTube or somewhere else, I think that it could be as well good opportunity for you. And if you will create networks, you know, between, for example, social workers, social volunteers, and this podcast, this is business plan for you. You know, you could do it. Actually, for those who would like to study and only to study, to be similar like Lenin, because Lenin learn, and nothing do, and later did social revolution. I invite you to do it, but please be consistent and at the end do your socialist revolution after studies. This will be the best result, because, you know, if you are doing transformation and revolution in society, it's always nice, but if you are sit and looking for the gifts, you know, you could wait on the pension, you know, and will not get nothing. So I invite you to be active, to protest, to create alternatives, and to study society. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Mažeikis. That was really interesting, especially regarding the revolution. And I think I have a question for our Vice-Rector Vilma regarding the revolution, partly. You said that you've graduated from VMU, from bachelor's and from master's, since you're like a super alumni of the university. And if you definitely you remember, and can you compare the state of affairs in not only in the university but in student life? And is there some kind of revolution now, especially in comparison to the late 90s? How do you feel?
Well, a very interesting question. I would never have thought I would get a question about revolution, but I guess the professor would say that, well, we always have revolutionaries, right? And there is always a need for a revolution. But like Professor said, well, Gintautas Mažeikis University is all about critical thinking, right? It's thinking critically, being creative, and being active. Not wasting time. Of course, I mean, like Professor said, well, studying and doing nothing more is definitely boring, and that's not for a student life. You need to enjoy it all. Studying, partying, and being active in fulfilling your own interests. So in that way, I think that students have always been students, right? And they have always wanted to do many things at the same time, to be able to pass the exams, and also to be with the friends, to find new acquaintances, to go to new countries. Well, perhaps the difference is that when I started my studies in 1992 as a bachelor student, well, Lithuania only just started to open the borders, and I remember after my first year at university, of course we did hitchhiking. We had no money to buy plane tickets and travel in other means, and the connections from Lithuania to Europe were quite poor. So everybody used hitchhiking, quite a dangerous activity, I would say, now as a mother, but at that time nobody would think about it. So nowadays students have more opportunities. Well, Lithuanian students have more opportunities. You have opportunities to come to Lithuania, right? So in that way, Lithuania is different, and well, luckily it is different, and we are very happy to have these opportunities. So, well, at that time we were revolutionaries in terms of breaking through the boundaries the system had imposed on us, and we were the ones who first felt the freedom. And now I think that you are lucky to live within these all opportunities. Like Professor said, just grasp the opportunities and turn the threats and turn the problems into opportunities. And I think that now students have all these possibilities to do that. But in other ways, students are students. And I'm very happy to work at university and to see those faces, new faces, young faces from different countries every year. And thanks God we're over with the pandemics, more or less. So, have I answered?
I guess yes. So the revolution of values, revolution of attitude, and the revolution of, I don't know, of life in some way. And regarding the freedoms, as far as I know and remember, Professor Mažeikis, you were born not in Lithuania, but in Russia.
In Vorkut,
In Vorkut, in Kamchatka.
It's Komi Republic. It's not Russia.
So you mentioned like a lot of activities that nowadays students can be enrolled in except for their studies. Maybe you have some memories and something to share with us today about what you did during your studies except from studying. I'm sure that taking into account that now you're a pro in critical thinking and critical theory especially, maybe something of this has already been either born or has their roots in your student years.
Okay, okay. First of all, I was born not in Lithuania, actually in in near north of Ural Mountains. It's Komi Republic. It's 4,000 kilometers from here, so quite far away. Then actually was in military navy for 3 years as well in Nordic part near Norway. It's as well. Then I studied in St. Petersburg University again. It was from 1986 1991. It was the most revolutionary time. I participated. Okay, what I did in my studies in St. Petersburg University. First of all, at the beginning I was like Lenin, learn, learn, and learn. The second, after it, I start to be like 1968 revolution, sex, sex, and sex. Then I went to the street because revolution started, and I participated in 3 big events. One of them in the huge demonstrations in Leningrad in this time, Leningrad. Then in Vilnius, in Lithuania, I traveled, and in Riga, because I from Lithuania always traveled through Riga to St. Petersburg. So, for example, very memorial January 13, this is very tragic day. I was in Lithuania, then I traveled immediately. The same was in Riga. I participated on these bloody events in Riga, and then I traveled to protest actions to St. Petersburg. So I was a revolutionary, and revolutionary. After it, it means that all my life I depended from all 3 these elements, from learn, 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 sex, 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 revolution, revolution, revolution. Always, So if you will build your CV in this sort, you will be a good professor somewhere.
So now you got a recipe for professorship.
Yeah, really. Okay, okay. That was, I should say, really not like really surprising and like even funny in some case. Like in fact, the recipe is quite easy, but we always need to remember that there are a lot of stuff that's going on behind those. Behind those ingredients, and sometimes they might feel like cool and everything, but I'm sure that like not everything is sweet. Yeah, that's impressive. I should say, that's really impressive. And how about you, our dear Vice-Rector? Do you have your recipe, or is it like is it more like study, 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 or maybe a revolution, revolution, revolution? Like how can you evaluate like yourself in some way?
No, I think I wasn't too much of a revolutionary, like I said before. But I think that, well, the recipe basically given to me was the recipe by this university, and like I said, the times were of this very important change. And well, one of the changes in my life were definitely brought by my studies in the United States. And well, this also broadened, in a way, my understanding of what could be done in life, and the idea of changing Lithuania, changing it for better. I remember when I came from the States back to our university, people asked me, why did you come back? I mean, like, people usually come to the States and never come back. And then after that, I also did my doctoral dissertation in Norway. And when I came back again, people asked, why did you come back? I mean, usually when you go to the West, to the Western countries, to the richer countries, you don't come back, you stay there. But I guess I'm not a revolutionary. I'm just an idealist, an enthusiast. And I always thought that, well, perhaps you use your talents and you use your opportunities to make life better around yourself. You just work for your country. And I'm happy that you chose Lithuania to develop your skills, perhaps then to work for your country, to implement them, to implement your talents, to bring better life to people around you, whichever field of studies you choose, just to become a better person, a better specialist, a better professional, and implement your skills there. So I guess I'm more of an enthusiast and idealist than revolutionary.
Well, sometimes you really need to be, like, not even sometimes, most probably you should be an idealist to become a revolutionary. Because you believe in some ideals, and you pursue them, and you find other people who can share the same idealism with you. So in this way, you're not so different from Professor Mažeikis. It's just the question of implementation.
You know, I get that we all here at Gintautas Mažeikis University carry this label of being a bit different, you know? Gintautas Mažeikis University, when it was re-established, it was re-established in the system that was very much, how to say, opposing to the ideals that Gintautas Mažeikis University meant. Because we were built upon this Harvard model, upon the model of liberal arts. There were a lot of professors from the United States who started developing the study programs here. And I think that I don't know if Professor will agree with me, but I think that we still carry this label of being, I don't know, the, black sheep or the white crow, whichever you want. But we are always different, and we have always gone against the system. And I think that's one of the labels of Gintautas Mažeikis University that makes us perhaps similar in some ways. What do you think?
Yeah, because I studied and I taught in many of universities, and later I choose Vytautas Magnus because that is liberal arts, you know. This is one reason. The second, there were a lot of alternative professors, those who don't like to be in the system, you know. It's difficult for me to even imagine if you would like to be creative, how could you be strongly in the system, you know? And it means that, for example, all universities, Lithuanian, were oriented first of all for national needs, and Gintautas Mažeikis immediately started to work on the international level, not because, or for example, couple results. For example, if you check the index of projects, international projects, it looks from the first size that Vilnius University for some results is better than Gintautas Mažeikis, but if you will check, for example, international projects, we have them maybe 3 times more for one person, you know, projects. It means that from this one, we are very involved into doing different research projects. What does mean it for the students, you know? It means that professors not always are interested in the, you know, if you'd like, in the active communication with the students. They don't like to sacrifice themselves for the student. Why? Because majority of them are involved into international projects. But like me, I am as well involved into many of projects. But what we would like to see from students, then those who would like as well participate in international projects, only some research project. If you would like to just study, you know, to sit and learn, okay, there is possibilities, there are libraries, books, you know, and so on. But if you would like to get the best result, it's better to go to your professors, which you would like to communicate, you know, or to choose, for example, possibility for academia cum laude, for your own individual project, you know, studies individual project, and then to communicate personally with some professors to be involved into international action, into their, for example, some multimedia, communication activism, or business partnership, and so on. And from this point, you could get the best result in the university. So this is everything very depends from your activism. As I mentioned before it, for example, no one university as Gintautas Mažeikis is involved in this migration problem. You know, that you could ask our Vilma, for example, and you will get a lot of information. Actually, it's not, I don't offer for you to start immediately from this one. It's better to start from learn something, you know. But after it, it's nice to come to, for example, to the Erasmus office, you know, and to ask about the possibilities, you know. And you could get the best proposals. And then as well, you could spend your time for traveling in all 3 Baltic countries. What is as well important, not to spend all the time in your rooms. It will be nice, and to and to organize international community, to participate in international community. For example, when I studied in St. Petersburg, between philosophers, there were probably from 50 countries, my colleagues, and still now we have some relationships, we support each other. You know, we send, it's a very, very good community. It's and it creates a big opportunity for future.
By the way, Professor, you mentioned that you have a lot of friends and colleagues in the East, for example, like in Russia. What I really want to ask you, how do you think, like maybe I'm sure that a lot of our students that are now present here, they know that there are some issues of freedoms to the East from here. How do you think, why such organizations that from the one point are not really involved in politics, like even universities and educational groups, let's say, for example, in Russia, they are, in fact, they're not banned, they are considered to be undesirable elements. How do you think, is it like fear, or just, or people who ban such things, they just don't understand the value of such institutions?
You answer both questions, the fear and don't understanding of the value. You know, what does mean cultural policy? Cultural policy is always battle for the values. You know, or it's always battle for the values, for female values, for LGBT values, for migrants, from race values, from Bohemia values, artist art of life, style of life. You know, there are many groups of values, and you always battle for them. This is one. And the second, it's always about your fear. You know, because there is law, and there are some, you know, local traditions. Many of them are very aggressive and from political sense as well. So this should be always, I would say, some balance, you know, between fear, threats, and your how much you ready, you know, for some action, you know. This is always, for example, you know, last year and a couple of years ago, we organized a lot of meetings in Kaunas city to defend trees, you know, that's cutting of trees in the city. This action were organized by local Kaunas anarchists, and as well some I would say activists, and many of them were foreigners as well. You know, that was important because, you know, between these street activists, many of foreigners who create some who create solidarity, who solidarize with the local activists, and it was very nice, actually, very nice, because after it we start to feel, to trust to trust each other. It doesn't mean when you come here, it doesn't mean that we don't have problems. As I mentioned before, we have endless of them. And many of social groups try to, because we are very Republican and democratic country, all the problems are solved by the activism of some NGO or some political groups. And it means that you always could find them, and all of them looking for the solidarity, for the volunteers, you know. And but is it dangerous sometimes? Yes, of course, because for example, what does mean conflict? Conflict is always about conflict with law as well. One side thinks interpret law in one way, and you interpret the law in the opposite way. This is the problem of interpretation, and this is beginning of protest and actions and demonstrations. This is very normal. It's normal. You know, and you could learn as well that this protest culture here, you know, if you would like, how to do it, and later you will understand how it is dangerous, for example, in Belarus and Russia to do the same. This is, if you will, many of my friends are arrested in Belarus, but those who emigrate to Lithuania or to the other countries like Germany, they always emphasize that this fear, the huge fear and anxiety, everyday anxiety about your future. What to do in this case? It's the best to find friends and to speak with them about your fears and anxieties in any way.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. I can definitely relate. Like, I'm from Belarus, therefore what Professor saying is completely true. Like, nothing helps in such a way that you really find your friends, those who understand you, and with whom you can share your thoughts and discuss something. Because, yeah, indeed, it's all banned. What I'm interested about is that I know that students that are now sitting in front of me, very different one, and you come from different countries. And unfortunately, I think not all your countries can experience such amount of freedom like we do have here in Lithuania. Like when you, like Professor Mažeikis, can protest against cutting of trees in the city. Maybe if any of you in your countries have any experience or just something to share, how the things are done in your home country. Maybe you have something to tell about how it feels, especially how it feels here in comparison to your home country. Do you feel that something is really different in comparison to what you experienced just maybe a week or 2 weeks ago when you were at home? So, Vadas, do you have any?
Yeah, just ask to raise the hand and someone with
Ah, okay. So maybe any of you can something to tell me. For example, I know that we have people from Bosnia here and people from Germany. And I know that we have people from Belarus. I've already met them like before this. Oh, yeah, we have.
Regarding differences between our countries, yes, is the main question. Am I right?
Yeah, like, do you experience that something is really different here in Lithuania in comparison to what you experienced while you were at home?
Of course, when you go to the street to protest, you won't be captured and in prison. It's the main difference for us.
And like apart from the actual capture.
Many people. There is more possibilities to do research, to communicate with academic society than in Belarus.
So you don't like if you're interested in something, you do not need to make sure that something that you are interested in should be like in line.
Some frames. You're free to choose any subject. You are free to communicate with different people from different faculties. Like in Belarus, we have such stuff as study group. In Lithuania, there is no such tendency to have groups because people from one lecture can meet each other on another seminar or lecture.
So even the university helps you not to be encased in your own program and your own class. I see. So you meet as much people as possible, so you can share the information and your thoughts, and maybe find someone or somebody that really can support you. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. So in fact, the university provokes you to think a little bit out of your classical program or class that you get used to. Okay. And how about our friends from the Western Europe? Do you have some, like from France, Germany, Spain? I am sure that we have somebody. So do you experience any difference with your home countries? Like we have already had comparisons with the East neighbors. How about the West neighbors? From Czech Republic, or maybe Hungary. Hungary would be really interesting. I guess everybody's just thinking about like, it's a little bit cold. We all hope that it won't be raining, and some food on the right really waiting for us. Well, I think really soon you will experience the warmth of the food that looks at you now. I think I will just take a little bit of your time. I had an experience of studying in the other university before Gintautas Mažeikis. I was a student of such institution as Belarusian National Technical University. It's definitely not Artes Liberales. It's more like Artes everything except Liberales. Because, and there, like unlike here, university does not provoke you to think a little bit out of your bounds. It really makes you to be as much as inbound as it's possible. Like, for example, I study power engineering, and I think I only met students from other programs who as well study in my own faculty, but from just a different program. And I met them like once or twice during my years, like at the same lectures. Like all the people are really, you can imagine, it's like in some anti-utopian novel when everybody is destined to a certain specialization or profession, and everything is done in such a way that you do not interfere with anyone else. So the state, the great state or the big brother, just ensure that everything will be good with you. You'll be prepared for the necessary things that it's awaiting from you, and you will not interfere with anybody else. So in fact, it's the production of robots, not people. I think the first time that I arrived in Gintautas Mažeikis, and I think like I see an arm that's been raised in the audience. Does the belong of arm wants to ask some question? Yeah, I think we'll hear the question.
It's not a question, it's about the differences. We are from Argentina, and it's really different because the weather, she's cold all the time, and I'm like, okay, get ready for January, then it will be really cold. Yeah, then... Sorry, I'll bring it back to mine. And, okay, yeah. And then the education system is really different. We don't have credits or things like that. We have a study plan. We have to follow it. And also, Argentina is, well, a very crazy and wild country. Protests are happening all over the time. I live really nearby the Congress, and every day you can see different protests of different things, anything you want to, and any topic you want to. Also, Argentina is a bit more open about sexual diversity than here, like really more open. But we have other issues related with poverty and stuff that here are really different. It's not that there is no poverty here, but in Argentina we have a misery, and it's half of the population right now with inflation and everything is poor. So it's not a really nice situation. So it's a lot of things happening with violence and everything. And also we are like really non-structured people. So for us here is like everything seems like there's rules for everything. In Argentina, rules doesn't exist at all. So I think that she says we are okay. We are okay. Come to Argentina. It's still a really nice country. But yeah, also it's a really big country. Differences is like the town I was raised is the same distance from here to St. Petersburg that from the city my parents live, that in the city I study, and it's the same distance than from here to St. Petersburg. And it's in the same province. So yeah, the distance are really big. Okay, nothing else I don't.
Yeah, I would like to react to Argentina, you know. I would say that, you know, about one of the huge problem which exists in Kaunas to find the dancing places, you know. And what I could offer for you, please find for you Zumba clubs. This is the real possibility. In this time, actually, you could go to somewhere nightclub or techno house, you know, rave, but it's not always happens, you know. And to imagine the tango, you know, this is not so simple. Okay, this is shred and weakness actually, and you have opportunities. Please organize some, you know, for Erasmus students dancing club, and you will see how will grow your popularity.
I think we can wrap up. Yes.
So I guess we have a lot of plans for you, like not only Zoom, but like podcasts, and I think everybody of you has at least something to think about, not beside your studies. Like you can always implement any of the models that the Professor Mažeikis has presented us with, and we should not forget about being idealists and how we can use it. everyone can decide, and you can find people who support your position, or maybe vice versa. You can meet someone who is really not aware, so you can rise the level of awareness. And as I can feel, the smell from the right part of our garden is really nice. So I think now we can, yeah, of course, I think we can more or less wrap up. And I think our Vice-Rector Vilma has really something important to say to us just before we really dig into these tasty snacks.
Yeah, just to say, I guess you are still okay and not frozen to death. But the information I wanted to share is regarding the vaccination, very practical issue. To those who have not yet been vaccinated and would like to do that, we have some dates when we have this Vaxo bus, whatever you call it, a bus that kind of comes to the public to closer to give them opportunities to get vaccinated. So this bus is coming to Vienybės Square, which is just close to Putvinskio building, where you have the International Cooperation Department. So this bus is coming tomorrow there from 2 to 6, is that right?
Yes, from 2 to 6.
From 2 to 6 tomorrow in the center of the city, Vienybės Square, the white square, beautiful square. If you haven't visited it yet, it's really worth visiting. And there you can get vaccinated. So it's tomorrow from 2 to 6. And then it's also tomorrow. It's also tomorrow from 9 to from 9 in the morning till 1 p.m. We have it in the campus in academia, where you have the agricultural academy. So on campus there will also be this vaccination bus. And then the bus is also coming on the 8th of September. So if you miss the tomorrow's day, then you can have an opportunity on the 8th of September.
Yes, in the center and
Right.
the academy.
Yes. And
take ID cards.
yeah, of course you need to have your document. You need to have your document. But otherwise, I mean, you don't need to worry that you don't have the Lithuanian ID, right? They will still give you a certificate. You will be registered anyway. So you just need to come. You need to have your own ID, whatever ID you have, and you will get the vaccine. Okay? So that's some practical information, and that's it. Now you're free to stand up and walk before you freeze. I mean, Lithuania is not that cold, but all this summer, you never know.
Okay, let's get this one.
We'll have a 15 minutes break, and then we'll have some dances and folk music. So grab a snack and enjoy yourself, and we'll call you back after 15 minutes.